Hello, today is the 19th of August, 2023. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls and make some predictions. It's my trading plan for Monday, which is August 21st, 2023. Please remember I can be completely wrong, and any trade you make should be made at your own risk. Also, from now through next Wednesday, I have personal business. I'm going to have less time to look at the markets. I'm going to try to make a post every night, but I can't guarantee I'll be able to do it. Look for the pattern with the early high, which is this. And Monday's pattern should also have the early high. We said this had an early high and a late low, but of late, the late low was higher than the early high, and that's exactly what happened. This is what we said, and these are the patterns I expect to see next week. We didn't maintain a gap. We did gap under this low, but we didn't maintain the gap. So you want to return to the trend line we've shown before, but we already did, so we don't have to do it again. We had some targets. We had an optional target we said wouldn't print 5% of the time. That's 4407.50, so that didn't print and we'll forget it. Ultimately, we should see 4413.60, but there's no time limit on that. We'll just put it on the list. We do have a new target, most likely to print Monday if we don't gap up smartly. And that's 43.54.53. And if we don't gap up smartly, that's my call for Monday. The next lower target was from the middle of June, and that's 43.17.52, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Early on, MEJT said ultimately we'd see higher prices. We got the minimum. We almost always get more, and we did. We got a sell signal in the afternoon. We did drop, but not enough to satisfy the signal. That gives us a target of 43.54.53, most likely to print Monday. Now this is a pattern which usually is a negative pattern. When it's positive instead, it should lead to higher prices, but this has to be maintained. And this is a very suspicious pattern here. If you look, we rallied all day long, but the close, which is this dotted line, couldn't manage a close over any of these highs. So you rally all day, can't clear the highs, can't clear this resistance from the prior FOMC announcement price. It's a rally which is backing and filling at this point and hasn't accomplished anything. Now, of course, if we gap up here, all that changes because what counts isn't Friday's close, but Monday's open. We gap up here, all is forgiven. But for right now, it's a big drop, a rally which couldn't even maintain intraday highs, which means for hours of trying, even though we managed to go over relevant levels, we couldn't hold it. It's very suspicious when you consolidate for hours, particularly on a Friday, break out right before the close, and not only can't hold the breakout, you can't hold on to any of these highs. Unless proven otherwise, which is always possible, unless proven otherwise by gapping over this high, that's a sign of a false break. And if it is a false break, we're going to get the usual pattern with a low early on, which is how this pattern usually resolves. And that low very easily could undercut this low, which is already undercut in futures. Now, of course, anything can happen over the weekend. We gap up over here, the whole pattern's killed. I mean, that we aren't going to know until Monday. But for right now, this didn't accomplish much. We have a lower target, and unless we gap up here, I'm looking for lower prices. As far as how low, the next MEJT target is 43.17.52. Now I can count this pattern as an ABC with C equal to A. So if we do gap up from here, I can count it. But even though that's a clear ABC, counting the subwaves here is forced. Counting the subwaves here is forced, and even though I can count them without breaking any rules, if the count's forced, I tend to look for something else. So what if we hit the MEJT target from June of 43.17.52? What if wave C ends at 43.17.52? Well, this would still be C. You'd have A right here, and there'd be a 2.618 ratio between the two. Now, just because that works doesn't mean something else doesn't work. But if we do get the drop I'm expecting, if we do hit the MEJT target, then at this old target from June 12th, we have great support, and there's a chance of that holding. Well, Monday's pattern has the early high. We could still gap down. It is bullish. Let's make this mixed signals here. It is bullish that Friday's normally bearish pattern rallied instead. But it's negative. There's a lower target. Unless we gap up smartly, the rules say it prints. Furthermore, the day-long rally couldn't close over intraday highs, and that would change if we gapped up Monday, but that hasn't happened yet. Some sentiment indicators are at levels seen near market lows. Now, these aren't precise signals. Sentiment indicators never are precise. You can't call them to the day. They don't prevent a substantial decline before they take effect. However, in terms of time, I think we're within sight of a tradable bottom. So Monday, we have the pattern with the early high. Signals are mixed. The commonest thing is a gap and prompt move outside the day's range. I can explain gapping up, but there's a lower target. I don't believe in spike bottoms like this. I think it should be tested at some time, even if it isn't Monday. And even though I can't guarantee we're going to start out lower, I think the odds favor starting out lower. And I think there's reasonable support at the old MEJT target of 43.17.52. And I think we're probably within a few days of a low if this low doesn't hold. And that's today's call.